Welcome to Align and Elevate. Love who you are. A show where I can be me and you can be you. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of Align and Elevate. And today we have another guest to speak with. Her name is Sydney, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us just a little bit, give us a little background on who she is. Take it away, Sydney.
Hey y'all, my name is Sydney Smith. I am a mama of three. We've got a few bonus kiddos throughout the year. So we have kids ranging from 3 kids up to 5 throughout the year. We stay busy. We are multiple business owners. We have cattle, and we are really big in our faith. So I'm really excited to be here and just kind of share about my journey with healing and kind of where that's taken me.
That sounds great. I know you have had some struggles in the past, dealing with physical issues, but I also feel like you've grown spiritually and mentally and emotionally throughout that journey. Is that right?
Absolutely. I've come a very long way, especially since having our first child, who will be 9 this year. When you get thrown into motherhood, you get thrown to the deep end. And before I even got to motherhood, I had a lot of mental health issues that I didn't even know needed to be addressed. I thought it just was the way life was. So yeah, I've definitely grown in my faith and with healing with my mental health. That has been a huge part of my story.
I'm so glad you said that because that's the part that I feel our medical system doesn't take enough account to, is healing that mental side while you're trying to do all the other stuff, like bring it all together and combine it.
Absolutely. I feel when I went to the doctors, which I firmly believe there's a time and a place for medication and that doctors can be helpful. But for my personal experience, when I went, I had the blood work drawn, I had the talks with the doctor, and on paper, there was nothing wrong with me. They could give me Lexapro or, any kind of antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, but that was something that just didn't align with my values, with what I wanted to do, what I wanted to put into my body. So I found alternatives.
So that's a good question right there, is where did you start when you were looking for alternatives?
So where I started with a small mindset was ignoring my friends who were trying to help me. Because you don't want to admit you have a problem, right? I thought I could just push through and it'd be fine, right? Everybody deals with life. I'll get over it eventually. But like I said, once I became a mom, this year will be 9 years ago, I learned that it was something that was off in me. There was some kind of chemical imbalance. There was something just wasn't lining up right. So a good friend of mine had introduced something called gut health to me. That was probably 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years ago. And 11 years ago, nobody talked about gut health. I didn't know. I thought she was a woo-woo lady, and I didn't listen. Good for her. It worked for her. Well, 4 years later, when I had become a mom, well, my math isn't mathing, but you get where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Another friend of mine said, Sydney, look, you're not yourself. You're not bright-eyed like you used to be, and your anxiety is taking over, and I can see it. So I'm coming to you real and raw as a friend, and you need to try this. There's a 60-day money-back guarantee. You're not going to lose anything if you just try. So it took a really good friend of mine that I had known for years. I knew her throughout high school and all the partying and things we shouldn't have been doing back then, getting real and raw and honest in my face about it and saying, look, something ain't right, basically. So my alternative was the gut health product she introduced me to through a company called Plexus Worldwide.
That is so, um, gosh, I can go so many ways with that. But the main thing is having a friend that's willing to do that is, first of all, the best thing. And maybe it's not a friend that you might have. Maybe it's, I mean, as I'm a therapist, sometimes people come to me with stuff and I will say stuff to them that other friends may not say that, I don't know, sometimes we need to be slapped with a 2x4 to get the message across. And I think that is wonderful that she took the time and effort to do that for you.
Yeah, she is a dear friend of mine. And like I said, we've been through seasons. When we were teenagers doing things we shouldn't have been doing. We actually used to be hostesses together at a Mexican restaurant. I've known her since I was probably 15, 16 years old. And I'm now just entering my 30s. So we've known each other for a while now. We've
Yeah.
had babies, at the same time and everything. So it is cool to have those friends that will give it to you straight and aren't afraid to do it.
Yep. Yep. That to me is called a true friend.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then what happened when you started your gut health journey?
So I at first only did it to appease her. Like I said, my mindset wasn't right. And just to draw a picture for you on how my anxiety was, is I had frequent panic attacks. I kept a brown paper bag in my purse, in my car, and in my bedside table at all times for hyperventilating. Um, it's just what would happen. I would feel like I couldn't breathe, and I was always terrified I was going to pass out. It was a mental, just something I couldn't let go of. Um, and it got so bad at one point that I pulled over on the side of the road and I called my dad, and I was hysterical. I couldn't stop crying. And he actually had to call 911 for me because I felt like I couldn't drive. I was shaking.
Hmm.
And that wasn't the first time that it just completely physically debilitated me. I mean, it wasn't just a mental illness. It was physical too. It's like my nervous system, I don't know, things weren't functioning the way they should have. So I started on the base system. It's called the triplex, and it focuses on weed, seeding, and feeding your gut is the way that the doctors break it down. It's got a wonderful magnesium supplement, a probiotic, and their patented pink drink. And if you've been around for a while, you've probably heard of this pink drink. Everybody's seen the girls with the selfies on Facebook. You're like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
But I tried it, and there was a 60-day money back guarantee. So lo and behold, I was going to try it for 60 days and get my money back, right? I was going to prove her wrong. It wasn't going to work for me. That doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. That works for other people. Well, by the end of that 60 days, those brown paper bags were out of my purse, out of my car, and out of my bedside table. And I get a little choked up talking about that because not many people know the severity of my personal mental illness. My husband is a trooper. And that's the best way I can put it, because it was something I literally could not shake until the pink drink.
And so that brings up a really important part that I've known about this for, I don't know, a while, mostly because I used to drive back and forth in the middle of the night to Brenham to do call for ultrasound. And I would start listening to the doctors talking about gut brain health. And so I've known about it for a little while, and it makes total sense to me. We make so many hormones through our gut that do affect your mood and mental capabilities and everything else. That's, to me, one of the missing parts is the gut health. And so that's pretty amazing that you had such a fast transition. I mean, 60 days is nothing.
It's nothing. And most people you can't get to commit to that first 60 days because it's outside of their normal routine. It's something that they wouldn't just pick up on the Walmart shelf. It's it's not something that a lot of people talk about, or at least it wasn't, 7.5 years ago, because it wasn't as well known. And the gut brain axis is one of the major points that our doctors talk about. But another thing is what you were saying, all our hormones are produced in our gut. I believe the percentage is 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. I believe that's the percentage. I don't have it written down, but
That
the
sounds about
further yeah, the further I go into this journey, the more I learn about healing holistically and naturally, and the more science I learn behind it, it really just all makes sense. And it's just, why didn't I start sooner, you know?
So I have a theory about gut health. And one is the overuse of antibiotics, number one. And number two is, did you ever have a period when you were a kid where you took a lot of antibiotics?
No, I didn't. I know that a lot of people have, and then
Mhm.
they have gut health issues later in life. But no, I didn't. But another thing that's a contributor to your gut health not being as healthy is stress.
Mhm. True.
Um, I can't think of a time in my life where I had a major amount of antibiotics. I mean, my mom, when we were growing up, was pretty much, you rest on the couch and sip on your Sprite and have your palate for 3 days. And if you're still running a fever, then we'll go get an antibiotic. We didn't run and get one every time we got sick, which I'm grateful for her, to her for that,
Yeah.
because of my immune system now. But
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of connections, and a lot of it's environmental. The environment now is different than it was 30, 40 years ago, but I think we're also more aware now than we were back then.
I agree with that. And I would say that awareness really has only come about in the last 10, 15 years, maybe that long.
Yes. And
Not,
the acceptance of the awareness too.
yeah, yeah, it hasn't been very long. So, tell us a little bit about your Plexus journey, how that has changed your life.
So for me personally, the anxiety was the main thing. It was uncontrollable. Like, it just was very, very bad, is the best way I can put it. Doctors were urging me to get on medication. So this was my last shot. Um, now I also want to put that pairing with my gut health regimen, I also make sure to get a good amount of sunlight a day, to walk, to move my body. I've cut out a lot of gluten. I'm not perfect. I still have birthday cake, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But but I'm just more aware of what I put in my body. So the anxiety was the main factor for me personally. I am down 80 pounds, and that is natural weight loss. And with my three pregnancies, I've been able to maintain that weight loss. It hasn't all come back. Um, and that makes it one more touch point with my journey. I'm sorry, there's so much. It's so broad, and it's hard to talk about it all because you forget, because your new normal of feeling well, you forget how bad it was. So with my first pregnancy, I was not on any gut health supplements. I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I was gestational diabetic. I couldn't nurse my first child. I couldn't produce milk. And then gut health happened after him. And for my second and third pregnancies, I had no issues. I even had a hemorrhage my first pregnancy. So I would say it's changed a little bit.
That is, I mean, so it really created whole different experiences for you in the second and third pregnancies and probably made them healthier too.
Yes. So my firstborn, he is a huge part of why I continue to share. And why I now solely focus on promoting gut health. Um, I used to be in the title industry for 13 years, real estate title insurance. And I guess it was almost 2 years ago. Um, our oldest, his name's Lawrence. He had some issues as a baby with his metabolic panel. He was always sickly, always getting ear infections. He had a hernia, had surgery for that, had tubes done. It was just one thing after another with him.
Oh,
Um, Stomach issues, projectile vomiting, a lot of health issues from birth. So he's older now. I guess at this point he was almost 7 or somewhere around there. I got a call from the school while I was at work, and I missed not one call, but 3 calls. He had collapsed. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've talked about this.
that's okay.
Um, they could not figure out what was wrong with him. The ambulance picked me up on the way to the hospital. We chose to go to one out of town since we live small town. We went to one in Houston.
Mhm.
And after testing and testing and testing, basically they eliminated all the big scary things. One of the things they eliminated, this is not a factor, was cancer. He had bruising all up and down his body. He had collapsed. The first thought as a mom was, who put their hands on my child? But what was happening was his blood vessels were popping in his body. And I guess with that, that caused him to pass out at school. He had swelling in his wrist, in his legs. He was actually in a wheelchair that day. He could not walk. So after all the big scary diagnoses were eliminated, they told us that basically all that's left is this condition called HSP autoimmune. Um, and I don't have autoimmune. My husband doesn't have it. I'm not aware of any major autoimmune anywhere in our bloodlines. So it was a shock for us. We're basically like, how does this happen? We talked to our regular pediatrician, and he said this is really only things you read about in a textbook. It's not something you see. In 30 years of his practice, he had never seen it.
Wow.
So I looked at my husband. I said, look, they can't give us any medication, but we know that there's inflammation happening in his body. We know that his intestines are swollen, and that's why we keep having to get these ultrasounds before we leave. We know his muscles are swollen. So I'm going to put him on this gut health regimen. So I did. And I, of course, got it approved by the doctors. I got it approved by the hospital doctor, the nurse, our pediatrician, with this animal of autoimmune that I've never heard of. I wanted to make sure that I couldn't, nothing was going to harm him or make anything go one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I put him on the same system I told you about, the triplex, magnesium, probiotic, and prebiotic, at a modified version for his age. And he was out of a wheelchair within 24 hours.
Wow.
And he was able to eat. His swelling was going down. His bruising was starting to disappear. Of course, it took time, but you could see in that first 24 hours a night and day difference. It was at that time that I knew that I could not afford to be in a job and a career where I was unavailable.
Yeah.
So that was the huge push that got me out of my career.
Wow. It sucks that something that severe had to happen, but I'm so thankful that you had the tools. If you hadn't been through that part yourself, you wouldn't have known even what to help him with.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
And I wasn't working the business side of it um, before all of this happened. I mean, when I first signed up, I shared with my mom and my husband, and but I didn't, I posted a few selfies, but I didn't really see the impact that there was here with this tool that I was given. I mean, I'm a big believer that God gives you exactly what you need. I'm a big believer if you don't see it now, you'll see it later. So like you said, that was placed in my life before for me to know because I sat back and I kept drinking my pink drink and I was happy with it. And you know, some other things happened. My husband got off blood pressure medication. I was doing better. My mom's plantar fasciitis went away. Like all these great things were happening, but I never really applied it to my kids or it really being a huge impact. And for the last year, probably before that happened with our son, I really just kept feeling this draw that I'm here to make a bigger impact. And that right there was that, smack with the 2x4 of here it is.
So that allows you then to work from home so you're more available to be with the kids?
Absolutely. I do this 100% from home. Um, and not only am I able to be with the kids, it is also funding me going back to school. So it covers bills for us, it covers our products that I don't ever want our son especially to be off of. And it's giving me the opportunity to show our kids that it's never too late to go back.
That's true. That is very true. I just recently ran across some new products that are helping me and they're helping my husband. And yes, it's an MLM like Plexus is, but my thought about that is wouldn't you rather go and talk to a friend or talk to a human being and share what you're going through and they can help guide you based on what they've had experience with? And there's plenty of videos and testimonies and scientific proof on these things. Why wouldn't you go and do it that way with a friend versus go pick it up off the shelf at Walmart where you get no support and no help? Because personally, I feel like a lot of products are great, but there's more to just more than just the product. There's another aspect of it, and I think you wanted to touch on that other aspect of it.
Yeah, so we had talked a little bit before, you can go and you can pick up anything off of a Walmart shelf or a CVS shelf, but you don't get that same connection. And another thing I just have to say is not all supplements are made the same. And with whatever company you choose to purchase from, I think it's important to have the connection with whoever you're buying from. I think it's important for them to ask those hard questions that maybe are a little uncomfortable, but overall will get you the system that you need. I think it's important to do your research. And like you were saying earlier, nobody had really heard of gut health 10, 15 years ago. Well, 10, 15 years ago, also, MLMs are ick. Nobody wants anything to do with an MLM because, they think of the cliche. And I absolutely think there are plenty of people out there in MLMs that are in it just for their own personal benefit. But if you can find somebody that really gets down to the root for you and what you're looking for, you can't trade that for going to swipe something off the Walmart shelf. It's just, there's such a personal experience and connection, and there's community there also.
I totally agree with you on that. I saw it with, well, doTERRA, my essential oils that I use was an MLM. They're great products. They are trusted. They are tested. I know they're not the junk that you get off the Walmart shelf.
Yeah.
I would rather trust a company and my friend who showed them to me more than 10 years ago, that was a whole different experience than if I just go, oh yeah, I love the smell of lavender, and so I put it in a diffuser just to make my house smell nice. There's a lot of healing properties to lavender, and you're not going to necessarily know about that, or I guess you could, but there's a system in place to help you learn about those things when you do go through a friend or an MLM, because they've done the research and they want to educate the people that use their products. And so that is put in place for you. So if anybody out there is listening to this, don't be afraid to get involved with an MLM. You don't have to build a business, first of all. You can just use the product, but at least you have someone who's kind of in your corner and willing to help you when you do buy a product from someone else. And the other point I really want to make is you're supporting a family. You get your support through your Plexus so that you can give back to the community and do all of these other things. And probably more important than any other part of that is you're present as a mom for your kids.
Exactly. And that is something, one thing I talk about a lot is that the income through Plexus is something that is fueling dreams that I didn't even know that I had. As we grow, as we evolve, as we go through changes and challenges, we change. It's just what happens. Our heart changes, our goals, our ambitions, it all changes. When I first got out of high school, I was never going to go to college. That wasn't for me. I was just going to go straight into the real estate industry. I'd already been working in it part-time, and that's just what I was going to do. I watched my parents work long hours and weekends, and it's in my DNA. That's what I'm going to do. And, when God puts something on your heart, if you don't listen the first time, he's going to pull you. And, that wasn't my first tug. And I'm not saying from that phone call, that's when I left, but that was the stop. That was the realization. That was it for me. I knew that there's a reason I'm feeling all these things. We have, since I've been home, been able to join a local church. And while I'm not as involved as I want to be yet, we have taken the steps, and we got our oldest was already baptized. We got our two youngest baptized. And it just opens doors that you didn't even know needed to be opened. So I totally agree with you to support your friends. And I mean, your friends aren't going to lie to you. If they do, then you got the wrong circle.
That's right.
But I agree with you. And, doTERRA is well known. And I'm not saying everything you get off the shelves at Walmart is junk, but don't be afraid just because something doesn't say FDA approved. Because let me tell you, not a single supplement is. I don't care where you get it from. And if it does, they're lying. But
And the FDA has their own problems. We won't even get started on that one because we'll be here all
yes.
day long. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Plexus, it's been cool to sit back because just as a happy customer for a while and watch them evolve to the point where I was ready to work the business, because they've got patented products, multiple, and it's just cool to see the reputability of something that really, really works for you. And that, man, it's really working for everybody else too. It's not just me. I remember when I came to see you and you were looking at that supplement I was taking for my back, and you're like, wow, this has really great stuff in it. That meant so much to me with how your reputation in the holistic healing genre or industry, or I don't even know what to call it, that was just so much confirmation of, man, this is good stuff. Like, not that I haven't known it for so long, but it's good to hear from experts that, this really is good. It's not just because of the name on the bottle.
And so I'm going to jump into something that I like to talk about is so different is you're the boss. You know what's good for your body. If somebody hands you something, and I'm looking for something. I used to have a product in here, but I don't know if I still have it. Oh yeah, here. Let's just Like this product right here, you might pick up at HEB. It's activated charcoal. How many times does someone pick up a product and go, just like embody it and go, I wonder if this is good for me? A lot of times, if you're really in tune with yourself, you can say, yes, this product would be good for me, or no, it's not. So, what you were saying is not all products are created equally. You might pick up two different brands of the same thing, and you will notice one you resonate with more. You can trust that it's going to do what it needs to do with your body. And so having someone who can personally walk you through that, to me, is special.
Absolutely. I agree. And to also have friends that can validate it as well. I think that broadening who you connect with in your community, whether they're with your MLM or somebody else's, that it's just more knowledge. And you can't go wrong with that. I was listening to one of your podcasts not too long ago and just hearing about different things, and it's with crystals, I think it was. And it was just really cool to hear perspectives from others and broaden my knowledge, because anybody out here that tells you they know it all, they're lying. None of us do. And I agree. You are your own boss of your body. And I think that's something that, unless you have somebody tell you that it takes experience and it takes a lot of error before you figure that out. Um, just for me personally, having my first child compared to my second and my third, there are things that I would have done differently. I remember I was very uncomfortable with one of my nurses with my first birth. And the second time I had no problem. I wasn't rude, but just, hey, can we switch out to so and so? And because you just know. And once you get to the point where you really have that backbone to stand up for what you feel is right for yourself, it just changes everything, don't you think?
Yeah, so that's, some people would call that confidence, but I call it standing in your power. But you learned what your power is through that journey you went through of healing from having anxiety to understanding what you feel like in your own body, what's good for you, what's not good for you, being in joy because now you're in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. When I say that, I mean we are all on this earth for a reason. God knows that reason. You make a plan with God when you come into this life that you're going to, maybe yours is you're going to help people who have kids that have problems that, you might have the solution to helping them. And so you're willing to step up and do that on a bigger stage instead of staying stuck in your little bubble of anxiety and being in the real estate industry, let's say. Maybe that door would have never opened, to the Plexus world if you had not decided, yes, I need to change something about myself. Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. I'm over here like preached because it's been the last year. May will be a year that I've officially been out of the real estate industry. And there's been a lot of learning, and it hasn't all been rainbows and butterflies, but I tell you what, it's a different world. My marriage is different. My relationship with my kids is different. I never have to miss a baseball game. We're big into baseball, and that's never have to. I never have to worry when I go to a certain daycare if I'm not comfortable, or or if just with anything. I just it has taken away so much worry, but I think that's also in my mindset as well. And if I'm at the point now to where if I get uncomfortable, I just remove myself from the situation, or I take a minute, or just take a breath and realize, what? If God has carried us through all these things, He's going to carry us through this too.
So that's great. So you lean then on your faith when things get hard. Is there something in particular you do with that? I mean, for me, I have learned same thing. And I try to teach this to my 4-year-old grandson, and we'll see if it works or not. But I said, if something's going wrong, just stop. Just stop. Stop. Breathe, number one. Step back and reassess what's going on. And a lot of times that's all it takes for you to find your next step, what you need to do next. If something is difficult, I think I talked to my last guest about this. If you're trying to do something and it's not going well, just stop. Please just stop. That means it's not the right time to do that, it's not in your alignment to do that. God is pushing you to do something different, whatever it might be. Yeah, just stop.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and I hear that. Another thing I have learned, though, just kind of on the flip side of that, is if it is hard, why is it hard? Who's making it hard? Are you making it harder on yourself than it should be? Are you not giving yourself enough time? Who are you comparing to? One thing that I do whenever I get through, when I'm in a really stressful season or just struggling with something or just maybe feeling lost, is I love to sing. And so I'll put on my worship music and I'll sing, and my poor neighbors that you know well can probably hear me through my house.
Probably not.
Probably not, but but I love to sing. It's something that I do, and I used to do it on more of a public platform. I used to sing worship at a church we were a part of, but lately it's been more private. I have a goal to get it to be more public again, but right now that's where I'm at with it. But that is something that just it just calms me. And I feel like we're all given spiritual gifts. And even though, I'm not a Lauren Daigle or anybody, I do feel like that is one of my spiritual gifts. It's something I enjoy. It brings peace. That's what I do.
Well, it's creative. And a lot of times, if you're stuck and struggling, taking that time to stop and pause and then go do something creative, a lot of times the answer will come to you. Plus, you're calming your nervous system when you're singing. And just as a tip, I sing in public, if you want to call my pasture public, because I'll get on the tractor, put on the headphones, and I'll be singing at the top of my lungs. And hopefully nobody can hear me but the cows over the tractor noise.
That's so funny that you say that, because when me and my husband first started dating, we would both be on a tractor out here, and one of the neighbors done called me out when we were first dating about that girl sure likes Dixie Chicks or whatever I was singing at the time. So yeah, that's a great place to sing. I agree.
I call it my happy place. If I'm ever in a bad mood, put me on a tractor and I don't care what I'm doing, shredding, disking, whatever. It just gets you in a zone that I call it the God zone, actually. You're just up there by yourself thinking, why else are farmers so wise? They're not talking to people all day. They're communing with nature and God all day.
And calm too.
Yeah, it's no. Some farming is not easy, but yeah, it's in some ways less stressful, I guess. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Very cool. Well, I think it is just amazing how you've shifted. I mean, your shift has been pretty profound, even in the last, what, 3 to 4 years, you would say?
Yes.
Yeah. Because how old is your
Yeah.
youngest?
Our youngest just turned 3.
3. Yeah. And she's a little spitfire.
Yeah. I don't know where she gets that from.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, there have been a lot of changes, and you know, the Sydney 7, 8 years ago probably would have wanted to just cut and run. or, grabbed a Miller Lite and a pack of Marlboro Reds instead of going on a walk in the sun. I at no point had an issue with drinking or anything like that, but that is something that I may have majorly scaled back on in the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years. Um, Drinking is just something that's not really a part of my life as much anymore. And every now and then, I was handed a glass of champagne when I walked on a cruise ship last week, and I took
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But every now and then, yes. But that's another thing that if I could give a tip to anybody struggling with stress or anxiety, um, is really look at what you're putting in your body. Because nicotine and heavy caffeine and alcohol, those are all major contributors to a gut health imbalance. Um, and if you can do anything just on your own to try to improve what you already have going on, I would say start there. My big thing when I talk to people is don't overcomplicate it, because it doesn't have to be as complicated as we're making it. And the reason I can say that is because I am the queen of complicating things.
We can all do that at some point in our lives, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say it to myself all the time. I probably shouldn't say it this way, but I mean, if something is a little hard, sometimes I'll go, keep it simple, stupid.
I
Just
love that.
keep it simple.
Yes.
Probably shouldn't say the stupid part because words do matter. Um,
Well, I've heard another lady say, keep it crazy, stupid, simple. So that's a
there
little
you
more
go.
gentle.
That's a little better. I like that one. Yeah, for sure. Well, I was trying to think, was there anything else we wanted to chat about? You have actually, like you just mentioned, you went on a cruise just the other day, right? And you went through
Yes.
Plexus?
Yes. And that's the third all-inclusive trip they've taken on us since November of 2023.
Wow, the third one, I didn't realize it had been three now. Very
Yeah,
cool. Where'd y'all go?
we went on a cruise to Key West and the Bahamas.
Ooh, Key West sounds
Yes.
fabulous. Mm.
Yes. And we, like I said, that's the third trip they took us on. The first one was a cruise, and we went to Labadee, Haiti. And we got off there, and it was interesting and very hot. It was so hot. It's hot here, but girl, it is hot
Yeah.
there. And the second trip was a resort in Punta Cana. We flew there in the Dominican Republic.
Mm.
And then this last one was the cruise to Key West in the Bahamas. And this time we decided to stay on the ship. Like I mentioned before, we've got multiple businesses, multiple kids, sports, all the things. And we just enjoyed that quiet cruise ship where everybody was off. It was so nice. The best part of our vacation was laughing and cutting up in the hallway and going to the pool, and there weren't that many people there, and going to the casino. It was just nice to have that connection.
Yeah, that I agree with that too. Is sometimes just taking that moment to pause and reconnect and and be quiet. Sometimes I always said if I go on a cruise and let's say it's a sea day or something, man, I think I would probably just lay in bed all day long and let them bring me room service and all the things. I mean, that sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah, it was a 5-day cruise, and there was one day that we just basically went to the buffet and went back to the room and watched movies. And I can't tell you the last time I was able to just watch a movie without someone going, "Mom, mom, mom." So that was
Right?
awesome. And
Yeah.
uh, one thing while I was there, I was thinking about you because I knew we had this coming up that I wanted to talk about was the community, and how you don't realize we all need community, whether you think you have time for it or not. Um, because the community that I have through Plexus, I've, several different communities, but that one specifically, it's just so accepting and uplifting. And they had certain gals got a whole group together to do worship. They did baptisms on the beach.
Mm.
Um, there was of course the party and everything else, but it was just really a beautiful thing to watch all these different ethnicities and then male and female. And, it didn't matter what your background was, everybody just come together and support each other. And I was telling my mom about this too. One of my favorite things was at the pool, watching everybody so confident in their own body. It all different shapes and sizes, all different ages. That was one of the most beautiful things I saw, even with seeing Key West in the Bahamas, was the confidence, the just positivity, everybody just accepting everybody and welcoming everyone. That is probably one of the only times in my life I've seen such community just be accepting and no judgment. And, there's always going to be one or two, but just the environment that there was while we were there, it was just really a beautiful thing to witness and be a part of.
No, I agree with you on that. Yeah, I think in the future, well, now too, of course, you have your church community stuff. You've got, sometimes you have a school community. But this one, like you said, it's like you all have kind of a shared, I don't want to say goal, shared philosophy maybe of bettering yourself and working on yourself and being confident. And I don't know what you may have a better word than I do on that, but it lends to a whole different feeling than some, obviously you have sort of a work community wherever you might work, but like you said, there's a lot of judgment in that sometimes instead of upliftment.
Yeah, I would probably say a shared mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That's the simplest term I can think of for it, is just a shared mindset of betterment. We just for ourselves, for others, and on our team specifically, I let my girls and guys know from the start, to me, it's not about making the sale. It's about the impact. I have felt it on my heart for years that I am here for more of an impact. And that right now is the lane I feel God has put me in, whether that be through church, whether it be through the school events, whether it be through prayer, through gut health, through healing, just to make more of an impact, make the most impact we can while we're here.
I love that very much. Yeah, instead of just zoning through life, you're wanting to make life better. And it starts one person at a time to make a whole collective shift of all of humanity, I think. So
Yeah, it's
you've been doing.
contagious.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. The more you the more you share positivity and just share the light that we're given, it's the world's brighter. I mean, that's the most illustrative way I can put it. But, and I'm not perfect. I don't always have a positive mindset, but for the most part, once you have something, I don't want to say it was catastrophic, but it was once you have a huge shift in your life, like the thing we went through with our son and, our mindset of just, it could, anything can happen at any day. It, it really makes you appreciate each moment.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. And staying in the present moment, living for today, is important. As now more than ever, I would say. So that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. I love it. All right. Let people know where they can get in touch with you or how they can
Uh,
get.
yeah, absolutely. So I do have a link to my Plexus webpage, and I will put that here in the comments, or I'll give it to you to put wherever you want it.
Yep.
Personally, I like to connect on more of a personal level. So I'm actually going to share with you as well the links to the quizzes I have about, your personal goals when it comes to your health. Um, and then I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the main ways to contact me on um, social media, and then through those forms that I have. It's all a very personal business. It's not just go to the link and order and then never hear from me again. My purpose is to build a relationship with everyone that orders, so that we can link arms and do this together.
That sounds beautiful. I really like that. And yeah, just you'll get with me after and we'll get all those links put down to the show notes. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, I appreciate you having me.
I can just see such difference in your brightness. Like you said, your face is brighter, you're joyful, you're happy. To me, I call that alignment. You're doing what you need to be doing.
I 100% believe that too. And it took me a while to believe that about myself and that I could, but I'm on the road now.
No, it's beautiful to watch.
Well,
So
thank you.
thank you so much for coming.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we will end for today. Thank y'all for listening. And if you have any other comments or anything, either one of us will get back in touch with you. Thank you so much. I do have one parting question for Sydney. Is there anything that you are passionate about today, or like something that you find that you're wanting to learn that is new?
Like in the gut health, or
Just anything right now that's kind of sparking your interest.
I can't think of anything specifically. I do try to kind of just stay up to date with the liver health and gut health and how everything's connected. But um no, I mean, just in a broad sense, I like more information. So any more information that anybody would have, I would be open to hearing about. But on a personal level, something that sparks my interest is getting more into worship.
Perfect. See, there you got it. I love it. That's great.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This was my first podcast interview ever. I've done Zooms before and phone interviews, but this was really nice. I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with me.
No, it's been great. And I know my listeners out there can gain something from any, maybe even just one word that we say. It's important to just be open and listen and see what resonates with you. And yeah, I love bringing information to people and possibly sparking that fire that they need to move in the direction of their service. So thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable with us. That is so needed in today's world.
Absolutely. I loved it. And I can't wait to hear what else you come out with.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today to Align and Elevate. If I can help you in any way, look me up at melanieking.me or check me out on Facebook, Instagram. MK Healer is my handle. As always, I will be me, you be you, and love who you are.